Signs he's ready for a serious relationship. In this video, I'm gonna tell you the signs that a guy is ready to settle down and that he's serious about you. It's Sabrina, your personal love advisor from A New Mode, the channel where we show you how love actually works. So it's really important to recognize where a guy is at and if he is at the place in his life where he is ready to settle down and to be in a serious relationship, especially if that's something that you want. Otherwise, you can end up wasting so much of your time. A big problem that a lot of women run into is that they ignore the signs when the signs don't align with how they want reality to be. So you meet a guy, maybe it's pretty clear that this guy doesn't want to commit, but you kind of ignore all of that because you really like him and you want a relationship with him. But you're really only hurting yourself when you do this, when you're not being honest with yourself. Other times it's unclear. Other times it's just confusing. You can't really tell where his head is at. Maybe he says one thing and does another, or he acts a certain way, but then he says things that contradict the way that he's behaving. So it can get really confusing. I am pretty amazing at predicting whether a relationship will last or whether it will fail. And the reason for this is because part A, I write about relationships for a living. Part B, I'm not in the situation, so I can see things through a more objective lens. And C, there are certain obvious signs that indicate a guy is serious and he is ready to settle down. And in this video, I am going to reveal everything, so make sure you watch all the way until the end. Real quick, if you like this video and find it helpful, please give it a like. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. Make sure to ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of our videos. And if you have any questions, any feedback, leave them in the comment section. I read them all. I try to respond to everyone. Okay, so let's get into it and talk about the signs that a guy is ready for a serious relationship. Number one, he's growth-oriented. I am always telling you guys to work on yourselves and how important that is. It's important in all areas of our lives, but especially so in relationships. It's really important to get to a good, strong, healthy place emotionally, one where you can be in a healthy relationship. Now, it goes both ways. You also need this quality in a guy because there is no endpoint when it comes to self-development. And just when you reach that endpoint, something else is gonna happen and all these new issues are gonna come up for you to deal with. So you need someone who's growth-oriented, someone who's willing to put in the work and to work on himself and to better himself. The worst kinds of people are the I am the way I am people. I am the way I am, take it or leave it, this is me. Now, in some contexts, yes, that is correct. For example, me personally, I have a type A personality. That is the way I am. That's never gonna go away. I can put that in its place so it's not so overpowering, but that is just my makeup. That's how I'm made. My husband is not the type A alpha personality, and he can never make himself into that. So yeah, I am the way I am in that regard. However, on the other side of things, I also used to have a very dominant personality. And I guess I do still have a strong personality, but I used to be very dominant in any social interactions. I used to dominate conversations. Now, this is an area where it became a problem. This is an area where people brought it up, that they had issues with it. It's even when I was dating my husband, something that he wasn't crazy about. So I didn't do away with that aspect of myself because you can't abolish the way that you are built, your fundamental personality, and that is a strong component of my personality, but I was able to get it under control, to tame it, to work on it so that I could be more of a listener instead of a, look how much I know, look how much I have to say, look how much I have to share. And that made me a better person in the end. So the reason I'm using myself as an example here is just to show you what this looks like. It doesn't mean that you get rid of one trait and, turn it into something else, because we have to be realistic here. It means that there is room for growth. You can work on those less appealing sides of yourself, and we all have those. And what you want is a guy who is willing to work on himself. Because this is the kind of guy who's willing to compromise. This is the kind of guy that's willing to hear you out and hear what you're saying. And when you have a need that's not being met, he can hear that and say, I'll try a little bit harder. I'll try harder to be a little more patient. I'll try harder to be a little more sensitive. A guy who is the I am the way I am type is not gonna do those things because he thinks that he's fine. He's fine the way he is, and you can take it or leave it. If you have a problem with how he is, then that's your problem, and there's the door. In a relationship, his behavior affects you and vice versa. So you want someone who is going to work on himself so that you guys can have a good, healthy, strong, meaningful partnership. And a growth-oriented guy will want the same thing. So that is something very important to be mindful of. Number 2, he factors you in. He checks in with you before making plans. He factors you into major life decisions. He doesn't just say, this is what I'm doing. I want to go to grad school across the country. I want to move my job to, our offices overseas. Okay, so that's what I'm doing and you can come along or you can leave. No, he's serious about you. He factors you in. He factors you into his life because he sees you being a part of it for a long time. He really considers you and considers your needs before making decisions. Now, a guy who's not in a place where he's ready to settle down is only thinking about himself. He can't make that room and make that space for someone else. So if there's something that he wants to do, then that's what he's focused on. He's focused on what it is he wants to do. A guy who's ready to get serious and settle down and be in a serious relationship with someone else doesn't have that selfish mindset anymore. He has opened up that space to allow room for someone else's needs and someone else's desires. Number 3, he deepens the relationship. When a guy is serious about you and wants to settle down, he will deepen the relationship. You won't be stuck in the same spot. You won't be stuck in this confusing land where he uses this confusing type of language where he's like, oh yeah, we're exclusive, but you're not my girlfriend. Or where he just says, I like things the way they are. Why do we have to change anything? Let's just leave things how they are. I don't like labels, or whatever the case may be. When a guy is serious, there's none of this confusion. He is just clear about what he wants and he deepens the relationship. It's only when a guy is not serious about you or when a guy just doesn't want to be in a committed relationship with anyone that you end up in these confusing situationships where things just kind of stagnate, where you don't know where you stand, where he's just kind of giving excuses to stall and to, bide more time. That's when it's a problem. That's a strong sign that he's just not serious. So why does he keep you around at all? Because he enjoys having you there. He enjoys your company. And even though he doesn't want to be in a serious relationship, he still enjoys having the benefits of a girlfriend, even though he doesn't actually want a girlfriend. So that's kind of why he keeps you around, even though he's not really serious and even though he doesn't want to keep you around for the long haul. Number 4, he is settled in his life. Now, this is really important, and this is a big difference between men and women. And I'm speaking in generalities here. I know it's not true of all men and all women. We're just going to speak in generalities here because it just makes life easier. Most men need to be in a mostly settled place in their life before they want to be in a serious relationship, before they want to commit. You guys know the story, or some of the story, pieces of the story of me and my husband. We dated in high school and it took a decade for us to date again and ultimately get married. Because for a long chunk of that time, he was not, and also me too, neither of us were in a place where we could be in a serious relationship. For me though, for girls, most women, we can always make room for a relationship. Doesn't matter what we have going on. So even though I was kind of a mess internally, I still wanted to be in a relationship with him again over all those years. He was not in the place where he could be in a relationship. He had to sow his wild oats, he had to work on himself, he had to, whatever it was, get his career on track, whatever it was that was going on for all those years, he was not ready to be in a serious relationship. So it just didn't happen. Didn't happen until he was at the point in his life where he was ready for that. And it was so clear to me. On our second date, I was like, wow, okay, it's very clear and obvious that this guy is ready to commit. He's ready for something serious. He's done messing around. This doesn't necessarily mean a guy has to have all the money that he wants to have, or he has to have the exact job he wants to have, but he has to be on some sort of path where he is pursuing his mission, where he is getting closer to his goals. Because if a guy isn't living his mission, if he isn't pursuing that, then he just is gonna feel like a worthless loser. Most men have a mission in life. And I actually talk about this a lot in our book. We have a book on Amazon. Eric and I, my co-founder of A New Mode, we have a book on Amazon called 10 Things Every Woman Needs to Know About Men. I talk about this a lot. I talk about this a lot on A New Mode. So if you're new here, I'll give you a quick recap, but men need to feel like winners in the world. And to feel that way, he needs to feel like he is pursuing his mission. His mission is his passion. It's what fuels him. It's what drives him. If he isn't doing that, then he feels like a loser. Like I said earlier, when a guy feels like a loser, he will not want to be seen. He especially will not want to be seen by a woman that he truly cares about. So if a guy is a complete mess, maybe it means he has no direction, maybe it means he's struggling internally, he's a lot of emotional issues, he just feels like he doesn't have a handle on himself, he doesn't have a handle on his life, he will not want to be in a committed relationship. A big mistake is for you to try to love him back to life, for you to try to be his healer, for you to be his therapist or his nursemaid, or whatever it is, whatever role you think you need to play in his life to help him heal. Because that's what I used to do. I used to adopt these damaged cases and make it my mission to fix them. That is a waste of time. That is a recipe to get your heart broken. Because one of two things is gonna happen if you do this. Either he'll get his act together and then he'll dump you for someone else because he's come to associate you with all those horrible feelings he had when he was in like the loser place of his life, or he won't get his act together and you'll just continue on and on in this dead-end relationship with a guy who just basically sucks you down with him. So it's really important to make sure that he is on top of his game, that he is settled in his life, that he is moving in the direction that he wants to be moving in. This is probably the most important point out of everything on this list, so really pay attention to this. Number 5, he's committed to making it work. It takes two to make a relationship. Sounds obvious, right? But yet it's not, because so many of you write to me and you're doing all the work in the relationship and this guy can't be bothered. When a guy can't be bothered, it either means that he doesn't like you enough, he doesn't feel like you're worth putting in all this energy and all this effort and all this sacrifice, or he just doesn't want to commit to anyone right now because he's not in the place where he can commit. Relationships take work. They do, and it has to come from both sides. It can't be you doing all the work. You can't be carrying the team here. It has to be both of you working together. A guy who isn't ready to commit is always looking for a reason to leave. A guy who wants to commit is always looking for reasons to stay and always trying to fight for the relationship to work. He wants it to work. He wants to see this through. He wants to put in his all and try his best. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but at least he tried. A guy who won't put in any effort is just a guy who doesn't want to be either with you or in a relationship with anybody right now. Number 6, he's done sowing his wild oats. So I met this guy a while back and he seemed great. I mean, he seemed like everything I was looking for. But I remember on our second date, he was talking about like going on this trip with all his frat brothers and all of them are single. And like, he was just talking about all this traveling he does with all his guys and all the bars that they go to. And I was just like, okay, it's clear that this guy's not on the same page as me, because I was in a place in my life where I was just, I mean, look, if I'm being honest with you guys, I was a party girl for a long stretch of time. I sowed those oats many times over. I don't know how many times you can sow oats, but I did. I sowed them all. And I had finally hit this point in my life where I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done with all of that. He clearly was not. So we clearly were on two totally different pages. And I did stay in the relationship, even though it became apparent, like, you know, to him, I mean, he wasn't an idiot. He knew that like I was a little bit more settled. He clearly was not, and it didn't work out. So keep your eyes open to these things. Now, to contrast that guy, my husband, when we started dating, most of his best friends were either in serious relationships or married. And some of them even had kids. So that was his circle. So he wasn't going out with those guys and partying, getting blackout drunk every weekend. He had a circle of friends who were more settled, and he wanted that the same thing. So that's another important thing to be mindful of. Who are his friends? What does he do on the weekends? And is he content to keep doing that? Or is he in the phase where he's like, oh, I'm being dragged out with my friends to the bars again, and I don't want to do this. I'm so over it. It's just so annoying. You have to pay attention to whether or not he is over that lifestyle, because there does come a point in everyone's life where you kind of graduate in life. You graduate to the next stage. You hit that point of, I've had enough of this stage. I'm ready to move on to something else. So you really need to pay attention to where his head is at. Number 7, he really lets you in. He lets you see his true self. He lets you see the man beneath the mask. He lets you see his shadow self. In psychology, the shadow self is the parts of us that is the true essence of who we are. But it's the part of us that we don't necessarily show to the world. But that is our core essence. That is the real us. So in public, he might present himself as this tough guy, cool, confident, got it together. But deep down, he might be really sensitive. He can be real with you, with no fronts and no facades. This is just the sign of an emotionally mature person, and this is the sign of someone who is truly invested in you. Number 8, you just know. This is something you guys will hear me talk about a lot on this channel. It's the fact that deep down, you already know the truth. Deep down, you already know the answer. A lot of the time, we just are hoping that we're wrong, because the truth does not align with how we want things to be. You just know it when a guy is serious about you and when he wants to settle down. You know it in the way he treats you. You know it in how you feel in the relationship. If you feel afraid to bring certain things up because you're afraid of rocking the boat, you're afraid of saying something that's gonna trip some wire and cause him to lose interest or cause him to get scared and run away. If you feel like that sense of walking on eggshells, that's a really bad sign. That means he probably isn't on the same page as you, and you know it. And that's why you're scared to talk about these things, because you know that he's just gonna confirm what you believe deep down, and you don't wanna hear it because you don't want it to be true. So you kind of just ignore it, hoping that maybe things will change and maybe he will eventually get serious and want to settle down. And yes, maybe that could happen, but it's not a good idea to completely invest in that. You can't look at the potential of what could be. You have to look at what is, because you're in a relationship with what is right now. You're not in a relationship with what could be in the future. So just be real with yourself. Be realistic. be honest, be truthful, because deep down you already know what's up. All right, so those are the signs that a guy is ready to settle down. What did you think of this list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there anything I missed that I should have added? Please leave it in the comment section. Make sure to give this video a like and subscribe. Make sure to ring the bell so you get notified. Also, be sure to join the A New Mode mailing list. You will get emails from me and my partner, Eric, so you get the contrast of male, female perspectives. We give a lot of personal stories, lots of amazing advice. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet. It's anewmode.com/subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, where I do regular Q&As and daily relationship tips and advice. And I will see you guys in the next video.